Multi-platinum alternative rock band Seether got its start in South Africa back in 1999. Now 15 years later, the trio is out with its 6th full-length studio album. Singer Shaun Morgan, bassist Dale Stewart, and drummer John Humphrey join me now. Guys, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
I hear you were trying to prove something this time around. What do you mean by that?
I think subconsciously we had something to prove because, the 6th album, I don't know that it's one of the most important ones, but I think everyone is important because you have to stay relevant and you have to stay current. And you have to have something important to say. And we'd heard so many comments about how we had sold out and become something else, and because we infused melody in our music, which was, I guess, a bad thing. But I think it was a subconscious thread through the album. I don't know that it was something that we set out to say, look, we have to prove something. But it was, I think we just needed to put something out that was solid and powerful, and I think we succeeded in that.
But you didn't get rid of the melody. You still have that in the music. So, I mean, why do you think people thought you sold out? Just because of that, or for other reasons?
I mean, the concept of selling out is so different now than it used to be 20, 30 years ago. So I think it's just a term that's sort of carried through the ages and no one really knows what it means anymore. So I don't consider us to have ever done that. I think it's just people have opinions, and I think they loathe change. So when you change and you evolve and you grow, it might be something that people are afraid of. You can't always just put out the same thing over and over. And here's the 6th version of what we've already done. We have to keep testing ourselves as well.
And it's personal. Some of it stems from diary entries, correct?
Everything I deal with is stuff that's happened to me personally, and the emotions that go with that. So it's all the negative stuff that I try and purge for myself. So you do, if I'm happy, I don't rush into the studio and try and write some music, because it's an emotion I prefer to cling to. It's my way of coping with that and dealing with that, and so that I can, once I've written music, I can come out as sort of a relatively well-balanced human being.
Take me into the studio and what it was like and what the dynamic is like among you three.
It's really good. At this point we've been playing together so long. We're really on the same page. We'll just be jamming something, and we'll go into a change at the same time. We just sort of anticipate it, and you start thinking along the same channels, and that's really cool. Our producer Brendan O'Brien, he's also like an extra band member sometimes, and I feel in doing it so quickly we capture something special, and it's almost like a snapshot. I think it's as a result of us being prepared when we went in. We had all the music done, and hopefully also because we've gotten better at playing our instruments, and especially in a studio environment, which is very different to live. And it's daunting at first, but I think we've become a lot more comfortable with it now.
So do you think you really have improved through the years since you got your start?
I like to think so,
Yeah.
We really hope so.
You haven't hit your peak just yet.
Yeah, I think between us and Brendan, there's a mutual respect there. I mean, this wasn't our first album. We've been in the studio, worked with other producers before. But he's like a great sounding board for us, to kind of bounce ideas off of, and gives us feedback. And he lets us be us, he lets us be Seether. A lot of producers, a lot of their bands or albums tend to sound the same, use the same sort of instruments and rigs and stuff. But he lets Seether be Seether with Shaun's lyrics and vocals and the energy of the band. It could be mellow at times or heavy at times. He just tries to, bring the best out of us, and make the strongest album as possible.
Well, his credentials aren't too shabby. I mean, working with the likes of Bruce Springsteen and Pearl Jam, he's definitely got that behind him, which is great.
It's definitely good company to be in,
Yeah. You mentioned Seether is Seether. Who is Seether today versus, say, 15, 10 years ago even?
Well, I can tell you we're not angry teenagers anymore, but I think we're still very much affected by society and what's now normal in society around us, and I think lyrically and musically that affects us, and we feel like there's a lot of negativity again that's in the world. We have all been closely affected by bullying, how these online forms of social media have become a platform for what I consider to be cowardly people to really break down and ultimately in some really tragic results other kids. So.
Rock music and radio has changed so much in the last few years. I mean, where do you feel like you fit in the whole rock scene?
Sometimes we don't feel like we fit in at all, to be honest. I think also it's important to stand out. So I feel like we need to stand out to be relevant. And we've weathered a whole bunch of trends, and we've seen bands come and go, and somehow we are still here. So I guess whatever we are doing is right as far as that goes. And we've actually sat on at times on the bus and go, man, where do we fit in?
Yeah.
What's next for us, you know? But I think that we're just a little engine that could. We just keep going, and until we get told otherwise, we're going to keep doing it the way we do it, you know?
That's great. You grew up South Africa, kind of got your start there. How did that influence your sound, or what was it like growing up there in music?
I think the main thing that influenced my sound was music that my parents hated. It was, I grew up, I was too young to fully understand the political situation, and I don't think that I was ever affected by that. You know, I was affected more by my interpersonal relationships as a kid, and how really poor they were most of the time. So those have affected me throughout my life, and then that's when music became my outlet, because, you know, I have pictures in my head that I can't draw because these hands won't let me. But I have songs in my head that I can recreate, and the older I get, the better I get at that, and that's quite gratifying, because, you know, when you get to a point where it's finished and you can hear, and you're like, man, that's pretty close to what I was thinking. That's a great feeling.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today. It's really fun talking with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seether's new album is called Isolate and Medicate. For this and all things entertainment, stay with CBSNews.com.